Usually it takes a few seconds for the audio to kick in. I think I got you now.
Hey, Sean.
Hey. Well, congratulations, man. You made it through all 3 days of the workshop.
Yeah, it took some doing, but we got there.
Yeah. Well, tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me what blew your mind.
You know, there's coming out of it, I guess there are kind of two things that I noticed. There's two methods, right, as far as doing this. It's the, searching through, and I've done some searching on SAM. Obviously, I haven't been able to use Bid Tracker yet, but, searching through, finding the things that you think you can make work, and as little time as possible, bid them out there, and then spend the time when it comes. Or there's the way Doug did business years ago, and I think you can do both, but it's find the projects that you really like and want to make work and do some reach on them, bid them a little bit, the way it needs to be bid and go after it. But super excited. I did enjoy the experience that Doug and you both shared. I think there were definitely some valuable experiences. Travis and I both feel like there's a kind of change of mindset that needs to take place in the way that we've done business in the past versus moving forward with if we're going to do some government contracting. It did get monotonous sometimes, that there was some repetitive things, repeating stories, and we were wondering, like, hey, did we bump something on the timeline? Are we going back and hitting a repeat story? And then oh no, it's just a little bit different workshop. But what would you say, Trav? Was there anything you liked, didn't like on that whole thing?
Oh no, I think more what he just said, but more just excited to get going. That's what mainly we're trying to get moving on to the next step. I think more than anything, what I took out of it is the change of mindset of how we've done business in a private sector as opposed to now working with the federal government. But there's going to be a lot to learn. We have quite a few questions for you, so
great.
Get ready.
I love questions because I got all the answers.
There you go.
Well, that's what we like to hear, and that's why we're getting a membership, is because we believe that you do have all the answers that can help us get to where we want to be. So,
yeah. Well, I'm here for you, man. I'm so glad. I'm so excited for you. It's like starting over, and what I love the most about GC Experts is that in the beginning, it's how do I. But you start to see a transition from how do I to strategy. And when that transition happens, the questions are much more interesting. And I can't wait to get you guys to that point.
Right. Well, it's funny. I told you I've been on SAM a little bit, and so we searched and we found just 2 hours north of us, there's a campground that wants some gravel. So Travis jumped on, he called a gravel guy up there, and then his first thing after is, all right, give me some feedback. How'd I do? On my phone call.
Well, remember from the workshop that communication is the response that you get, okay? And take that to heart. Always start your conversations with an end in mind, okay?
Right.
And then guide the conversation towards what you're trying to accomplish. And it's okay to make mistakes along the way, but the whole idea is to get better at that over time so that you're consistently and constantly getting what you really want.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, as far as moving forward, I guess I tried to find a few links or whatever, but for signing up for the membership, I guess, what do we need to do to proceed at this point?
It's GCExperts.com/membership. Couldn't think of a fancier way to do it.
Okay.
And there's a video on the page that kind of explains, the ins and outs of the different options, and because there's 3 options on that page. And if you want me to do the song and dance, I'll do the song and dance, or you can watch the video, your choice.
No, we're familiar. And I would say let's just fire away with some of the big ones right away. Questions, and then
You want to go ahead while I'm filling this out?
yeah, he's filling that out, Sean.
Hit me, baby.
Yeah, if we can, a couple of them that we're getting started with, these might be questions you'll say, hey, it's out of my scope. You'll have to find out from somebody else. But one was, do we need to increase the type of or the level of insurance that we have just from our basic?
Do you have GNL 1 too?
Yeah.
You're good to go. And if you have problems getting insurance in other states, just send me an email and say, Sean, send me your insurance guy, and I'll get you hooked up with my insurance guy that can handle all 50.
And then that leads to the next, probably not necessarily the biggest question we have, but one that we're trying to figure out from our limited experience with the federal section, the federal contracting is obviously we both are general contractors in the state of Idaho. Then obviously we have a business like deal in mostly is right here in the Preston area. And so then from the workshop, we both have talked and are trying to iron out, because I've done a couple of federal contracts as a sub for a guy. And then Ryan's done a large project in Florida under a capstone company. But when Doug would talk about he would take his guys down to do a job, is he referring to a crew you guys have with Reitmeyers, or is he referring to the subcontractors you would find in X state, Hawaii, for example, or Nevada or something like that?
Both. You want me to talk about examples, like get specific?
Yeah, and mostly you have made mention several times you don't have any other licenses outside of the license to do Reitmeyer and Associates or Ryshawn or whatever you were doing. And so when I went down to Arizona and did work, I was the sub working under a guy named Hess Construction, who was awarded the bid. And I never understood, did he need a contracting license to work in Arizona, or did he not require a general contracting license or a business license in that state? There's confusion there.
Okay. You ready for me to clarify?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. First of all, there is no such thing as a federal government construction license. There is, when I say I have never had a license other than a driver's license, what I literally mean is I have never had a license. Hold on, my thing is dinging here and I gotta mute this. I don't remember how to do that. Mute notifications for an hour. Perfect. Okay, I've never had a license other than a driver's license. None of the companies I ever owned were licensed to do anything. So just in general, drop the term license from the perspective of what we do. The only thing you have to be is registered with SAM in order to be awarded a federal contract. Once you're awarded a federal contract, you do have some obligations because you're now in a contract with the federal government. So let's talk about what those obligations might be. On some jobs, they're going to require that you provide an insurance certificate. On some jobs, they might require you to provide some type of payment and performance protection. And we can talk about that, the different 5 types that I talked about, the tripartite escrow agreements, the bonds, the irrevocable letter of credit, cash, deed to land, those kinds of things. Okay? They're going to want a schedule. They're going to want to get submittals. They're going to want some paperwork issues. Okay? But they're also going to have some requirements in the contract. Hey, we want you to replace a transformer. They may or may not require that the electrical work be performed by a licensed electrician. if they have that requirement. They may or may not require it to be a state licensed. In other words, it might say you must install this transformer by a state licensed electrician in the state of Arizona. But it could also say must be installed by a licensed electrician. Okay, well that doesn't mean that the licensed electrician can't work and operate out of Texas and operate in Arizona to do the job. You feeling me?
Yep.
And it may just say replace transformer. That means you, me, and any guy down the street can replace it. But it's going to have to be done in accordance with industry standard and trade practice. In other words, it's got to be done right. So when one of my guys, I don't know if I talk about it in the workshop, but I did a job inside NORAD. Maybe I talked to you guys about it or not. But he got the job to replace a pillow bearing on a 6-inch or 8-inch shaft on a big motor, a couple 100 horsepower motor. And my dad called me up and said, hey, do you want to go inside NORAD? And the answer was, yes, I want to go inside NORAD. So my dad and I flew to Colorado Springs, rented a car, bought a bunch of shit, went inside NORAD and replaced a pillow block bearing in a couple of days. Dude, that was fun. But I'm not licensed to replace pillow block bearings.
Yeah, do you have any other on that regard?
No questions there. I mean, that's kind of what I figured. It's just, you know, what Trav had heard, and we both heard as you went through the workshops that you mentioned, you know, mostly your dad. I took my guys on site and we did this work on this HVAC cooling tower.
And so, and it might be that, let's go through that, and it might be that we hired a team, put the team together, and we went out there and accomplished the job in 7 days. I mean, right. Look, I'll just give you examples. A year ago or 2 years ago or something, I'll draw it out. It was a hospital for the Bureau of Indian Affairs or something like that, but it was a hospital in a remote area of South Dakota, okay? And it's a government hospital, but it's in the city of wherever. It was a small town, and it was in South Dakota. And now I can't, look, we all come into construction from different avenues, right? And where I came up through, my dad was really strong in HVAC, okay? So when I came up through the business, the first thing he did was sent me to the Carrier School up in Syracuse, New York, for 6 weeks of HVAC training. He wasn't going to have a kid in the construction business that didn't understand heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, okay? So, okay, now I've got this subset of education. Not that I know how to apply it. I don't, but okay, now I understand how an air conditioner works. Then he sends me to controls school because he can see that the world is changing from pneumatic controls in buildings to digital controls in buildings. So I get an education in how controls work. And then over time, we get a big controls job in San Angelo, Texas, and he sends me off and says, Sean, change 65 buildings out from old mercury thermostats on the wall to digital controls. So I've got knowledge and skills. Now, was I a licensed electrician? What's the answer?
Sorry, go ahead.
Was I a licensed electrician?
No.
No. Was I a licensed HVAC digital blah, blah, blah? No. I mean, I might have had a certificate from the controls company that said I was authorized to install their controls, but is that a license? No. But anyway, so I go and spend a year out there changing out 65 buildings, running conduit, low voltage wirings, hooking up control panels, running, THHN wire over to the thermostat and calibrating everything. And I learned how to write the control sequences. But then flash forward 10 years later, and I get this job in Austin at the IRS building. And when it came time to do the electrical final hookup and the controls for the cooling tower, I drove down there and did it because I know how to do that. Okay? So
Sure.
the team that we put together, whether it's people that we hired or subcontractors, I didn't, install the cooling towers. I hired a local mechanical company to install the cooling towers. I hired the crane company to coordinate, or maybe I told them, who do you normally use with your cranes? But the idea is, as a general contractor in the federal world, we put together the team and we comply with the contract requirements.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess going back to the insurance, how much of that, obviously in my mind, from what I gathered from the workshop, we're going to try and pass on bonding upon the sub, the insurance exposure upon the sub, right? We're going in, is it more of you're treating it as you're a manager, right? I mean, we're not going out there to do a lot of the work most of the time.
Essentially, what I am now creating within you is that you are a construction management firm. Okay? That's not to say that you wouldn't, in some occasion, fly out to a job site, coordinate everything, and even watch it all come together yourself. All options are on the table.
Sure. Okay.
But I did want to mention, I don't want you guys to lose something. That job in South Dakota, that hospital, on the 3rd floor of that hospital, they had a big air handling unit that blew air that way. And it went down into the building, and they had a hot coil and a cold coil, or maybe it was reversed, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, it was a heating and cooling air handling unit that serviced the 3rd floor. We had to replace this air handling unit. I say we, it was the client had to replace the air handling unit. But it's a hospital, so you can't, and it's in South Dakota and it's wintertime, so you can't leave them without heat. So what Doug, I say we, everything you're about to hear was Doug's idea. Doug decides to go outside the wall and install a hot box heating coil to use the hot water here, come outside the building, run it through the hot box, put a big blower, and force air down into this thing from outside the building. Temporary heat. It was a change order to the contract for like $100,000 to provide temporary heat down into the hospital in this section of the building. Well, you need controls for that. He's got a kid that knows controls. So Doug put a team together, and me and a couple of my guys that I know, we all drove up there and we did all this thing over a 10-day period or something, and got everything all temporary heat up so that they could come in and demo out this air handler. Then they installed the new air handler, and then the rental on the hot box, and we had a big propane heater up there on that roof as well. But I was there and helped coordinate the whole thing because he knew if I send my son up there, everything's going to end up working.
Sure. You got any others right off the bat?
No, not at the moment. a lot of our questions are going to come as we go. We're going to have them as we get our first contract moving forward and how we handle that. Obviously, as soon as we get into the members area, I'm interested to get into a lot of the paperwork, go through some of those subcontracts that you guys talked about there. And I mean,
Sure.
we've dealt with contracts before, but I mean, those are the things that I guess if I have any apprehension or nerves, it's like, okay, make sure that we're covered from A to Z. We dot all our I's and cross all our T's and don't get ourselves in a bad spot, you know?
That's what I'm here for, man. I mean, you know, how hard is it to get a hold of me and get on, you know, I love these things because they're in color. You know, phone is so black and white, and we can talk about things on these things and throw ideas up on the whiteboard and strategize in ways that, you know, in human history has never been possible. And I love it.
So I'll give you a scenario. The first contract we're looking at here, right? So we're at this campground 2 hours north of us. I mean, they just want 625 yards of gravel delivered. So we get on Google Earth. We gravel pits within the area, right? So there's like 10 gravel pits. Well, the first thing I do is I take the government spending and I say, I wonder how many of these gravel pits are already doing stuff with the government, right? So just a quick search of the 10, 3 of the 10 are doing, have done work or registered within SAM. You know, and so I guess my strategy is I'm strategizing looking at that. It's like, okay, these guys are all doing business with them. Try and get in touch with some of the other gravel pits. They haven't done a lot of work. And so, I mean, that's where Trav and I are just talking back and forth. It's like, hey, are these guys on there all the time? Or the fact that this one company's done one job in the last 10 years, this other company's done 10 jobs in 10 years. They're not doing a ton of government work. What are the chances that they even bid this thing? You know, that they even know about it?
Sure.
And so that was kind of our question. Are they, because they're in the area and have done work in the past, maybe done gravel delivery, do they get a notification that, hey, there's something for you here to bid, or do they have to be actively searching for it?
Don't know. I spent $250,000 to build Bid Tracker because I think sam.gov sucks.
Okay. Well, so I mean, we're just trying to figure that out and go about it the right way. But at the same time, it's like, okay, let's not spend a whole day just on this one thing. Let's decide whether
it's not. Look, that's not necessarily true. You guys are starting off into a new venture, and it's not dumb to spend a whole day thinking about something in the beginning, because the things that you're going to be learning now will become 10-minute tasks a year from now. Okay? So don't necessarily think you're wasting your time educating yourself in all this stuff or picking up the phone and calling me. Look, if something is stupid and you shouldn't be spending 10 minutes on it or an hour on it, I'll tell you. But don't necessarily think that spending a lot of time putting your first bid together is a bad idea. It's probably actually a good idea.
Kind of what we were thinking. Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking. This one that came across only because we're just looking. It's combined synopsis. We look back through our notes, get what that means.
Yeah, this is what they want. Give them a price.
Yeah. And are those going to tend to be less negotiable? It's really going to be a simple process of get them a bid price and send it in. Is that something?
And look, it's one bid. I mean, over my history, 1 in 20, right? You know, and Doug 1 in 23. Some of my guys say they're 1 in 7. Some of my guys say they're 1 in 35. I don't freaking matter. How long does it really take? Look, in the beginning, yes, it takes a while to put your bids together and get into the swing of things, but I can tell you that it's not unusual that in, say, May, June, July, August, that I would sit down and in an hour put 5 bids together and get them in.
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of that's obviously your comfort level with it too, and we're hoping to get there. You know, we're going to see some stuff.
It's going to take some time. Yeah. Look, all I can tell you is that the guys that are consistent and stay with it, you know, keep your day jobs, get the nut covered, okay? Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but slowly transition over time into this, and it will serve you well.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's just move on to.
So let me show you my computer. So I hit submit. My credit card says I got paid, but this is what showed up on my screen.
Well, that's because I'm an idiot on the internet. So we're fixing things, and I'll certainly make sure that gets resolved. But in the meantime, let me look at my inbox here, and it says you guys just gave me a shit ton of money, and I appreciate it.
Okay. So now I guess at this point I should have access to the member area and bid tracker and all that fun stuff, right?
Automated emails are supposed to be firing to you right now. Whether that's actually happening or not, but I can make it happen.
Let's make sure you identify organization.
If it's not, don't freak out. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not taking that money and flying to Tahiti tomorrow. I'll make sure you get everything you need to get. Just, I'm on the phone right now, so I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, nothing's shown up yet. But other than, like, say, American Express said that I did get charged. So that's the only thing. Okay. Yeah, no worries. If we actually I'm working with Elda right now, getting our SAM stuff finalized and our UEIN number, or whatever that is. So.
Yep. It's a process. She knows it well. I assure you she's doing everything that she can to get you guys done.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, yeah, I was gonna say if you jump on there and see if what we need to get going and get signed in, that'd be great. Otherwise, we'll just keep clipping it.
Give me 15 minutes, and because everything that is supposed to be automated, I can do manually. Give me 15 minutes, you'll be fired up.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. Anything else?
No, we're good for now.
Thank you for investing in the GC Experts. I'm going to Tahiti now.